you know, and with the reasonable cost for really, you know, getting something that is a great location, since we do or, you know, I shouldn't say we, the veterans do the Memorial Day ceremony there every year. It's just a natural to put the bugler up there, and then possibly, I think, even the 21-gun salute. It's the entry to town. Not, like I said, this isn't my idea. When I said this, people were saying, well, does the bridge have a name? Could we call it, you know, Humboldt Memorial Veterans Bridge? And I said, well, it's called Sumner Avenue Bridge now. I don't think anybody cares if we call it that or not. And just talking to, kind of, Aaron's been chasing down numbers and things. He thinks, correct me if I'm wrong, but 7,500 on the outside, the engineers are saying, with our list of probably a plaque, probably inscription in the concrete, a flagpole, and then maybe 2 plaques, you know, on each end of the bridge saying Humboldt Veterans Memorial Bridge. And
his comment was, you know, I think it's probably, he said, to be conservative, I would say 10. He said wouldn't be surprised if we were closer to 7, because he felt as though the $5,000 figure for just the normal overlook was pretty conservative too. But, you know, you had made the comment when we were talking earlier, you always want to make sure that you've got the funds so that you don't end up, you know, halfway through it, and then, you know, you need the money for that plaque and you don't have it. So I would say if the council chooses to move forward with this, there's really no way to separate out the cost for the overlook. You could separate out the plaques and things like that and some of the add-ons, but as far as pouring the concrete, you just kind of have to take the estimate of the engineer on cubic yards of concrete that will be poured, and just take that number and just go with it, because you can't really get a specific bid item for that. So just as a...
Who talked to Kiwanis this morning?
I did.
You did, Joe? I talked to about 5 or 6 people after Kiwanis, and they were all fired up for it and supportive of it. The morning Kiwanis was anyway, to donate, you know, to make it work.
And that's just been the reaction from everybody, you know.
Well, from the sounds of it, I think that there's already funds that are out there that are available to do, you know, to do that. You know, with that, if the cost is an issue, that we should be able to raise the, you know, public or private funds in order to be able to add that to the overall project. And I guess that that's just my issue, or my feeling is that I'd be more than happy to help support it any way that we can, and work with any other groups in the community to do the same. So.
I would think our manufacturers.
There will be a donation.
I guess at this point I will leave it at that, and you can take that into consideration.
I can see it already.
Depending, you know, I don't think you want to go that far. Pretty interesting design.
So, if you don't have anything else, you've got my support anyway.
Thank you, Mike.
So, thanks.
Mike.
And Dave Dodgen, I talked with him with the Rotary, and he needs to talk to the Rotary and get their full support, but he was 100% behind the project.
To be sure, you're instructing maybe HKS and go ahead and put that in the bid then?
Yeah, and I asked Stan with WHKS, I said, you know, what's the time frame that any decisions on this really needs to be made? And he said, well, adding it in is really not a very significant change. You know, there's really not a whole lot of structural to it. You know, it's just taking it and adding it to the plans. The decisions as far as, you know, specifically, you know, how you had mentioned the flag off of it, and plaques you can add later, but anything as far as flag or lighting, he'll come back with some ideas, and I'll just distribute those. And
Something people can get at.
yeah. My thought is to hang it way over the side of the bridge so that it can't be touched.
Yeah.
So.
Would there be, we talked at one time about there's a water main that goes under the river that's gonna have to be moved at some time or another, and it was gonna be attached to the bridge. Is that gonna affect anything if we do go ahead with this project?
I did, I guess, I apologize if I didn't bring that back to the council, I meant to. Schlofelt did the exploration as far as, you know, cost savings by potentially strapping the water main to the bridge rather than boring it under in the current location. And the cost benefit for doing that, not to mention the added concerns as far as bringing the water above ground. You know, granted, they do it in a lot of places with no problems of pipes freezing with insulation and everything like that, because you've got tons and tons of, you know, gallons, thousands of gallons of water flying through that pipe, so it doesn't really have enough time to freeze. But there are concerns that, you know, time passes, insulation fails, and you end up with frozen pipe. So after just, you know, figuring out the pros and cons of it, it just didn't seem like a wise decision to put it on the bridge. So
Okay.
that's why it wasn't included in the designs from WHKS.
Okay.
Like I said, I do apologize if I didn't bring that back.
Well, the other thing, you know, this project, I wouldn't have gone any further if Daryl had said, you know, it's a bad idea, but, you know, getting Daryl's support right away, I think, he knows the veterans community in town, and he's talked to some of the guys, I think, and it seems like it's been positive from them too. I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Yeah, BFW and the leads are going to support it.
Good. Wonderful. Good idea, Joe.
Thanks.
Going forward. Anything else on that? We're good.
So we're okay, we're gonna do that?
Yep.
Okay.
Discuss zoning, your new business, discuss zoning administrator position.
Oh. He's not here. I think you guys just received it. The current Cityscape magazine from the league has an article about elected officials serving in multiple capacities. And in there, they state that no elected official shall receive payment outside of the payment they receive as an elected official, with several exceptions, like if you're a volunteer firefighter, or you're a volunteer reserve police officer, or, you know, things along those lines, or bid work that's bid. You know, if there's a formal bid process and your company, for instance, if John had,
Bidding a machine.
you know, was bidding a piece of machinery, then obviously everybody has an opportunity to bid that machinery. So
I like the exception with the mayor who gets to mow the
yeah,
parks.
there's, so you see, if you run it, yeah, the mayor, in one community, the mayor mows the parks, and so he's allowed to get paid for mowing parks. So, anyway, it's a fantastic read of an article, but the point is, Councilman Boomgarden actually serves as the zoning administrator and gets paid for that. And so, I just got the recommendation from the city attorney back that he would recommend that that scenario no longer continue. He was the one that actually gave us advice in the first place that it would be completely fine, but then the league came out with formal guidance on this, because there's two conflicting sections of the Iowa code, and one states that states this very clear restriction, and then the very next thing says with the common sense exceptions for situations where it's nominal amounts, or, you know, something along those lines. And so in this scenario, the zoning administrator receives a very small amount of money compared to, you know, anything that can be deemed as even part-time work. So I've already made the comment to Councilman Boomgarden that this scenario would probably exist, and the league and the city attorney have concurred that most likely, you know, that their reading and their guidance would be that the situation can't continue as it is right now. So that puts the councilman in a situation where he's going to have to make a decision whether he continues as zoning administrator, receives no money for it, resigns as zoning administrator, or resigns as city council member. So now that I have the guidance, I'll be passing that along to Councilman Boomgarden. So I guess this is more of kind of a heads-up item than necessarily much to do about that. But it would also be, if he does resign the zoning administrator position, I guess, then I would put that out there, that if you know of anybody who might be interested, we'll be in a situation where we'll have to appoint. And it is a pretty important position because that it is very time consuming and, it's beneficial to have somebody who knows what they're doing and can answer those questions constantly, because a lot of times I'm pretty hard to get a hold of for some, people just walking through the door, so it's always good to have somebody that they can pick up the phone and get a hold of.
Do you know what the legal opinion would be if we put it out there and nobody wants the job or nobody's qualified for the job? Is that even a possibility? I mean, I think we'll fill it.
That's kind of the situation that existed when the councilman took the position, was it went vacant for, I served in that capacity for probably 5 months.
Mhm.
And,
Good people.
yeah, there's a lot of phone calls, a lot of questions. We try and head off as many from the city hall as possible, but, a lot of times people want somebody to go out there and take a look. Well, where do you think the setback is? How far do you think this is?
Mhm.
Which obviously we don't locate property lines, but they, sometimes somebody can't really explain it to you. You have to go out there. And frankly, I don't have the time to go look at every single building permit, so.
Well, I might suggest just, put the position out there, keep Steve in the position. And if somebody wants it, that's fine, replace him, but we need somebody in that position. And I think we're kind of borderline. I know they talk a lot about 2,500 as a population number where, things get, it becomes much more, the mayor can go mow the parks if he wants to, if you're under 2,500, but we're real close. So, I don't know,
I wouldn't recommend to continue any further.
I wouldn't either, not if they instructed us otherwise.
No, I think that Eric felt it was greater than what the league feels it is. The League of Cities said, we feel as though that there's not any exceptions other than specifically cited within the code.
Okay.
And Eric's reading of it was that this other code section actually had more force than what they feel it does. So, I would hate to speak for, for the attorney, but I think he would say, the sooner the better, and probably only pay for work up until this point, and then part ways with the new guidance.
Well, let's follow the attorney's advice.
Sometimes it's a good.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
So is that what we're doing?
Well, that's Steve's choice.
Yeah.
He has to
Right.
decide which roles
Which
he
role
wants
he
to
wants to
pull
play,
in.
councilman or?
Yeah. So.
Gotcha.
I guess that's, Steve will let you know, I guess.
Put it on the resume.
And don't get that sugar. Alrighty, we need a motion to approve a street closure request for Matt Dominic for a block party on 11th Avenue Southwest on Saturday, September 22nd.
This is the same request the council considered previously for a block party in that area. The temporary closure of the section of road will not inconvenience any residents.
Cul-de-sac.
Move we approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed. Under resolutions, we need a motion to approve the following proposed resolution number 2013-81. A resolution authorizing the fiscal year 2013-2014 budget transfers of $2,000 from the general fund to the Trees Forever Fund, $50,000 from the general fund to the Fire Department Capital Projects Fund for truck set-aside, $6,000 from the road use tax fund to the street capital project for the jet truck set-aside, $200,000 from the local option sales tax fund to the road use tax fund for street maintenance program, $175,000 to the streets capital projects fund to the road use tax fund, maintainer purchase, $20,000 from the sewer fund to the capital projects fund for the jet truck set-aside, $30,000 from the sewer fund to the capital projects fund for the reed bed replacement set-aside, $60,000 from the sewer capital projects fund to the sewer fund digester lid purchase, $36,600 from the emergency fund to the general reserve fund. Emergency fund, that makes me nervous. And $22,811.30 from the debt service SSURA TIF fund to the TIF LMI set-aside fund.
It's just a tricky one to read. This simply orders the transfers that were included in the budget that the council approved for this year. The majority of the transfers are for capital project expenditures and set-asides.
Tell me what the emergency fund is, just.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know what the emergency fund was, I guess.
The emergency fund is a special levy that exists for cities that exist that are at the 810 general fund levy limit. And that emergency fund is 28 cents per thousand? 27 cents per thousand of property tax levy that goes into the emergency fund. Well, the emergency fund is then transferred every year is transferred to the general reserve fund. And so essentially it's just a holding tank for these funds, and then it's transferred to the general reserve fund, and then it's used for whatever purpose. Recently, because we've had low general fund balances and negative general fund balances, it's just to recoup and get that towards a positive fund balance, so just general operating, or what they would deem as a fiscal emergency. Essentially, it's just an additional property tax levy for cities that were at the 810 limit.
Move to approve.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Goodell.
Aye.
Slater.
Aye.
Rusher.
Aye.
Hater.
Aye.
Next, we need a motion to approve the following proposed resolution number 2013-82. A resolution approving an engineering services agreement from Clap Saddle Garber Associates Incorporated for the Humboldt Municipal Airport Runway Pavement Rehabilitation Project, and authorizing myself to sign the aforementioned project.
This project will include a slurry coat over the entire runway to extend the useful life of the surface. Currently, the runway has several cracks that are causing increased wear on the pavement. The project will fulfill the FAA's immediate concerns about the runway and allow for the airport to pursue additional hangar funding. If you remember, the 5-year plan for the airport actually has entire runway, the complete runway replacement due to line of sight issues. The runway has a bow in it, so when you're sitting on one side of the runway, you can't see the plane on the other side. The FAA does not like that, so the idea is to raise it so that one side's raised up a little bit so you can see, you have line of sight from one side to the other. That project is several years out. When the state and federal funding is maxed out, then that project could move forward. It's debatable whether the FAA would continue to fund projects until the runway is addressed. And so the idea was to do the slurry coat, get the additional years, pick off a few other projects, and then finally to go do the runway project, which will be a $1 million project. So.
Move to approve.
Second.
Is this an 85-15?
This is, I believe this is a state-funded project, so it'll be 85-15 for the slurry coat. The federal funds are being reserved for the conventional hangar replacement that is proposed for next year.
First and a second. Roll call vote.
Slater.
Aye.
Rusher.
Aye.
Hater.
Aye.
Goodell.
Aye.
Next, we need a motion to approve the following proposed resolution number 2013-83. A resolution accepting the bid and approving the purchase of a skid steer loader for the City of Humboldt Sanitation Department.
The city budgeted $33,000 for the skid steer and received one bid at $30,410 after trade-in from Casey Nielsen. After reviewing the bid, Clayton recommended the addition of a 3-way switchable controls, which will increase the cost by $1,585 to bring the total cost to $31,995. This is under the budget number and a higher quality piece of equipment than was the spec actually required. The 3-way switchable controls is for trade-in value. It has Case, Cat, and John Deere controls on it, and honestly, for ease of operating use, I'm sure you'll speak to that. Casey Nielsen's comment, I think, was that it'll be, you increase your trade-in value in your market when you've got all 3 options when you go out to trade it. So.
Move to approve.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Rusher.
Aye.
Hater.
Aye.
Goodell.
Aye.
Slater.
Aye.
And the next one, I'll take a motion to table it.
I'd move to, that we table this action.
Oh, this is Lathrop's edition, isn't it?
This one?
Oh, yeah, this is a.
Oh, I'm sorry.
for Elson
Oh,
one.
this one, okay, different one, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Alrighty, we need a motion to approve the following proposed resolution number 2013-84. A resolution approving the vacation of a portion of platted 9th Avenue South and accepting an offer from Mitch Fridolson to purchase said property, which is described as a parcel of land in the city of Humboldt being 66 feet north and south by 165 feet east and west, located between Lot 17, Block 1, Lathrop's Addition, and Lot 16, Block 4, Lathrop's Addition, Humboldt County, Iowa, originally platted as the 165 feet of 9th Avenue Southeast of Taft Street South.
Simply accepts the formally accepts the offer from Mitch Fridolson, so legal work can be completed and the property